Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Informal terms for money. Food made from dough of flour or meal and usually raised with yeast or baking powder and then baked. Cover with breadcrumbs. Bread the pork chops before frying them. Informal terms for money. A gambling card game in which chips are placed on the ace and king and queen and jack of separate suits, taken from a separate deck. A player plays the lowest card of a suit in his hand and successively higher cards are played until the sequence stops. The player who plays a card matching one in the layout wins all the chips on that card. Make off with belongings of others. Informal terms for money. Any of various types of cabbage. Any of various cultivars of the genus Brassica oleracea grown for their edible leaves or flowers. Informal terms for money. Informal terms for money. Informal terms for money. A flour mixture stiff enough to knead or roll. Informal terms for money. A hardy cabbage with coarse curly leaves that do not form a head. Informal terms for money. Coarse curly leafed cabbage. Informal terms for money. Any of various plants of the genus Lactuca. Leaves of any of various plants of Lactuca sativa. Ice cream or water ice on a small wooden stick. In England, a popsicle is called an ice lolly. Informal terms for money. Goods or money obtained illegally. Informal terms for money. Take illegally, of intellectual property. Steal goods, take as spoils. During the earthquake, people looted the stores that were deserted by their owners. The excess of revenues over outlays in a given period of time, including depreciation and other non-cash expenses. Informal terms for money. Informal terms for money. Informal terms for money. A line indicating the location of the start of a race or a game. A depression scratched or carved into a surface. Informal terms for money. Cause friction. My sweater scratches. An indication of damage. Carve, cut, or etch into a material or surface. The lovers scratched their names into the bark of the tree. Dry mash for poultry. Remove by erasing or crossing out or as if by drawing a line. Scratch that remark. A harsh noise made by scraping. An abraded area where the skin is torn or worn off. Scrape or rub as if to relieve itching. Don't scratch your insect bites. Gather, money or other resources, together over time. They scratched a meager living. Postpone indefinitely or annul something that was scheduled. Scratch that meeting. The chair is ill. Poor handwriting. Cut the surface of. Wear away the surface of. A competitor who has withdrawn from competition. Golf. A handicap of 0 strokes. A golfer who plays at scratch should be able to achieve par on a course. Informal terms for money. Informal terms for money. An essential structural component of living cells and source of energy for animals. Includes simple sugars with small molecules as well as macromolecular substances, or classified according to the number of monosaccharide groups they contain. Informal terms for money. Sweeten with sugar. Sugar your tea. A white crystalline carbohydrate used as a sweetener and preservative. Informal terms for money. Small cylindrical beads made from polished shells and fashioned into strings or belts, used by certain Native American peoples as jewelry or currency. Food made from dough of flour or meal and usually raised with yeast or baking powder and then baked. Flour or meal or grain used in baking bread. Food made from dough of flour or meal and usually raised with yeast or baking powder and then baked. The most common medium of exchange, functions as legal tender. We tried to collect the money he owed us. The official currency issued by a government or national bank. He changed his money into francs. Wealth reckoned in terms of money. All his money is in real estate. Foodstuff rich in natural starch, especially potatoes, rice, bread. Foods, like breads and cakes and pastries, that are cooked in an oven. A recording of a song that was first recorded or made popular by somebody else. They made a cover of a Beatles song. Form a cover over. The grass covered the grave. Clothe, as if for protection from the elements. Cover your head. A fixed charge by a restaurant or nightclub over and above the charge for food and drink. The act of concealing the existence of something by obstructing the view of it. The cover concealed their guns from enemy aircraft. Travel across or pass over. The caravan covered almost 100 miles each day. Span an interval of distance, space or time. The period covered the turn of the century. A covering that serves to conceal or shelter something. Under cover of darkness. Include in scope. Include as part of something broader. Have as one sphere or territory. This should cover everyone in the group. Fire that makes it difficult for the enemy to fire on your own individuals or formations. Artillery provided covering fire for the withdrawal. Put something on top of something else. Cover the meat with a lot of gravy. A natural object that covers or envelops. Under a covering of dust. The protective covering on the front, back, and spine of a book. Make up for shortcomings or a feeling of inferiority by exaggerating good qualities. Bedding that keeps a person warm in bed. He pulled the covers over his head and went to sleep. Hide from view or knowledge. The president covered the fact that he bugged the offices in the White House. Be responsible for reporting the details of, as in journalism. The cub reporter covered New York City. Covering for a hole, especially a hole in the top of a container. Put the cover back on the kettle. Act on verbally or in some form of artistic expression. The course covered all of Western civilization. Sit on, eggs. The female covers the eggs. Protect by insurance. The insurance won't cover this. Cover as if with a shroud. Copulate with a female, used especially of horses. The horse covers the mare. A false identity and background, especially one created for an undercover agent. Her new name and passport or cover for her next assignment. Be responsible for guarding an opponent in a game. Be sufficient to meet, defray, or offset the charge or cost of. Is this enough to cover the check? Help out by taking someone's place and temporarily assuming his responsibilities. She is covering for our secretary who is ill this week. Hold within range of an aimed firearm. Invest with a large or excessive amount of something. She covered herself with glory. Maintain a check on, especially by patrolling. The second officer covered the top floor. Play a higher card than the one previously played. Smith covered again. Protect or defend, a position in a game. He covered left field. Provide for. The grant doesn't cover my salary. Provide with a covering or cause to be covered. Cover her face with a handkerchief. Spread over a surface to conceal or protect. This paint covers well. To take an action to protect against future problems. Count the cash in the drawer twice just to cover yourself. Dark steamed bread made of cornmeal, wheat and flour with molasses and soda and milk or water. Bread made with whole wheat flour. Small rounded bread, either plain or sweet. Bread containing caraway seeds. Judaism. A loaf of white bread containing eggs and leavened with yeast, often formed into braided loaves and glazed with eggs before baking. Bread flavored with cinnamon, often containing raisins. Bread made with cracked wheat that has been ground fine.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.